everyone, welcome back again. So, today I'm going to take you into the discussion and details of how to prepare an outline for your dissertation. And now, many of you may be into your master's and now looking for a dissertation or major training opportunity. That is dissertation that you have to do in your master's, that is a part of curriculum. And now you might have qualified CSIR net examination and now looking for an opportunity for your PhD. So, in both the cases, you need to write your dissertation or thesis. Now, what should be your outline, or you can say the outline and representation of your thesis or dissertation or topic? So let's discuss on the same, and we are going to see the details of it. So the first thing that you have to include in your thesis, that is your master's dissertation thesis or PhD, that is the first topic that you have to write is for working title. Means what is the title, which title you're working on. Means you have to write the working title, like this is your title and you're working on this related field, this particular subject. So that comes under working title. After this title, you're going to write your abstract. Now, what comes in abstract? So, abstract is just the precise, or you can say concise thing of your research work. So, let's see what you have to write in your abstract. Means here you have to describe your research field. So, everything that you're going to write here, that should be very concise and precise. You should not elaborate more about your research. Means that is going to give a gist of your research work. Means you have to describe a research field in which you are working. Means you have to tell about what is the gaps that is there in that particular field or project that you are working on. Means you have to identify and mention that gap. Ki this was not identified previously, now I am going to work on this field. Also, you need to write about aims and objective. Again, that should not be elaborated. You have to write in one point and you have to reflect like you are going to work and you are going to have this kind of aims and objectives. You need to write about methods employed, that you have employed this method, this techniques you have used, and you have ultimately found that result. Means that should be in one line again. But I am mentioning here what all things you need to include in that single paragraph. Key result and finding. So this is just a chronological order. You have to mention then key results and finding. What is your contribution to that particular study, your project? So you need to always establish novel findings. That is what called as researching something. Means whatever that was found, now we are working on that particular topic. Means you are coming out with novel findings. That is what called as research. Means that should be concise, it should be to the point, it should be unique. Why unique? Means you are finding something new. So that will be unique always. Factual as well as research based. So all these points that I have mentioned is the chronological order. So you have to maintain the sequence. You have to write the gist of your research work, but that should not be more than, you can say, one para. So you have to take care of all these points and you have to write the abstract. Now coming to the third category that you have to include in your dissertation, that is introduction. Now you can clearly see this introduction means you have to introduce everything. So let's see what you have to include in your introduction part. Means you have to include, very firstly you have to write about the general topic and background. Suppose if you are working on TB, then you will explain about tuberculosis. What is tuberculosis, how it spreads. Means you are going to write about the background, you are going to write about the statistics that is there in the globe, or you can say कि कितना ज़्यादा ये फैल रहा है, what are the antibiotics treatment that is present for tuberculosis. So all these things you have to mention for one paragraph. So we are talking about introduction. Let's see what are the things you need to write there. Terms and scope of the topic. What is the scope and importance of that particular topic that you are working on? You need to write about the current situation, like tuberculosis. This situation is there and this many patients, they have been found every year. Millions of patients is there across the globe. So you have to mention the current situation, or you can say statistics, as we are talking about tuberculosis, that is a infectious disease. Then you have to write about the current situation. What is the current situation? Where there is a gap, what is not found till now. So you have to mention what is present and what is not found till now. You have to identify the gap. Then you have to write about your research, that you are going to work on this topic and what is the importance of that. You're going to address that problem. You're going to talk about that research problem that you are going to work on. You're going to write that research aims and objectives, ultimately your methodology, your hypothesis, and you will ultimately state your methodology. And after that, what did you find? So introduction, you can say that a elaborated form of, you can say, abstract. Abstract, you were just writing the one para. Now in introduction, you will write about the topic. Suppose if you are working on, let's say, tuberculosis only, so tuberculosis, you will write introduction, background, everything, statistics, antibiotic treatment, how it was done, like how the vaccine was designed for tuberculosis, everything. Then you will come to your, you can say, research title, that this finding was not there, there was a gap in this field, so I propose my research work. Then you will start with your research work. You have to plan, you have to write everything about your research work, not too elaborated, but yes, you have to mention that thing and what hypothesis you are going to use here, what will be the methodology, everything, and ultimately what did you find at last. So that will be introduction. So this will be the second heading, you can say, because the first is working title, means you have to mention the title. Second is abstract, means very first heading will be abstract. Then introduction, then comes your literature of review. Now what do you write in your literature of review? So literature of review, students think like both the things are similar, introduction or literature of review, but that is somewhat similar. You cannot say like it is exactly similar. So let's see what you have to write. So again, that is somewhat different from introduction, but more or less it is similar, that you have to write again the same things, but how you have to write, in what order you have to write, you can see here. That is a previous work done. You have to mention about what is the previous work done in that particular field. Like we are talking about tuberculosis, right? Then you have to write about, you have to mention about tuberculosis, what is the previous work done, what has been done previously, what is the current status of work, what ongoing research is there in this field particular, what will be the future scope, what you have done. And here you have to comparatively discuss, you have to compare your work with the proposed work, means what is the previous work that is done and what is the work that you are going to do or you have done. So here you have to write, and comparative discussion should be there on that particular topic, and this is what called as literature of review. Rest all things will remain like introduction, what you have mentioned in introduction, that remains the same. And here you have to focus on all these important point, that is what is the work that is done previously, what is the current status of that particular title, what will be the future scope, and ultimately you have to compare your work with the previous work, means you have to compare that you have found this thing and you have established this finding that was not found earlier. So this is all about review of literature. Coming to the fifth title, that is about methodology. Now comes methodology, means what methods you have used. You have to write everything right from your raw materials that you have used, techniques, everything, protocols, that is what called as methodology. Now let's see what you have to write. You have to write the approach you chose for your research. Suppose if you are working for any hydrogel preparation, right? Then suppose if you're working from wheat straw. So wheat straw, you will write from where you have collected that material, then you have processed everything, you have used this reagent, that is what called as approach. You have used wheat straw, that is a raw material, then you have used chemical to delignify and everything, all that wheat straw, that is what called as protocol. And then you are using some kind of techniques, some other experiments, that is what called as approach. So you have to elaborately write everything or every approach that you choose for your experiment. Uncommon methodology you use, means you have to write about the methodology, methods. Methodology means uncommon, means that has not been used earlier, means it's not like you're copying entirely from a different paper, some other paper, and you're using that. No, you have to develop your own way, because your thesis, your project title is entirely different. So you have to plan your methodology. Suppose if you're working on DNA isolation, so that time you can use the protocol, but your project title is different. So you have to plan your, you can say, research, and accordingly you have to execute it. How you collected the data, means you have to write everything, how you collected raw material, everything you performed your result, you performed your experiment, then you got your result, and ultimately how you got the data. Means ultimately you have to write about raw materials and methodology here, methods you use to analyze the data. And suppose if you are getting your, you can say, a result, now how you analyze that data. So you have to write what statistical method did you use to analyze your data, discuss any obstacles and their solution. Suppose if you are analyzing your data and if you're conducting your research, that time if you face any kind of difficulty, then also you have to address the same thing, what obstacles did you face and your solutions, what was the solution for that problem. That is what called as methodology. Means you have to write each and every detail that you perform in lab. Cite all resources that you use. You have to cite, you have to write from where you have taken this help. Suppose if you have taken from DNA protocol isolation, how this is done, so you have to cite that resource adjacent to your text, that I have taken this help from this particular paper. So that is what called as citing the sources. So this is all about methodology, where you have to mention the materials and methods that you used. The next is result. Now you have to write your result. Result means your findings, right? Now what you have to keep in mind while you are writing your results. So whenever you are writing your results, make sure you are writing relevant details, like you are putting all the text, tables that is required, as well as figure. So suppose if something, in case of, suppose if you are writing something but their figure is required, so that time you have to include everything, you have to include that tables. And also you use statistical analysis to analyze your data. Whatever you have found your result, you need to use the statistical analysis. And suppose if you have conducted many research and after that you are reaching to your ultimate finding, or you can say particular finding, so that will be your result. But for that you have done many secondary research, right? So that is what called as secondary data, secondary findings. Means for that you have done so many background work, that is called as secondary findings. So always include that secondary findings, or that is what called as subgroup analysis. Include all result that doesn't fit your assumption. Suppose if you have hypothesized something else, but now you are getting something else. Suppose if you are hypothesized some 2 or 3 points and you have reached to 2 points and 1 point you are not getting, that also you have to mention. Means you have to include all the results that doesn't fit into your assumption or that support your hypothesis. So if you are going through that hypothesis, if you have found that result, that's very good, you can mention that too. And suppose if you are not reaching to your result, that also you need to mention here. So this is about the things that you need to think and you should know when you're writing your results part. And what you should not write: raw data. Suppose raw data we have got, now we are about to use the statistical analysis. So never show your raw data for your results. Always analyze it using the statistical test, and only then you analyze that data. So never show your raw data in your results part. Background information, never write your background information. If you need to write this background information, better to include in your introduction part. Meaning of a result, you don't need to write the meaning of results here. Just the result part is showing the result. And whatever you have speculated from that result, you need to write in the conclusion part. That is the next heading that we are going to talk about. So this is about the things that you don't write and you should not write in your thesis or dissertation. So now coming to the next part, that is conclusion. Now here you have to conclude about your topic. You have to summarize what did you find. Means here you have to state answer to the research question. Means whatever hypothesis you have developed or you have made in the, you can say, starting or at the beginning. So that answer you have to state here. Yes, you have found that particular answer. That is what called as stating answer to research question that you asked at first. Here you need to summarize all the research process that you have done. Again, you are giving the summary of that. So here you have to summarize the result part mainly. We are talking about summarize. So abstract, we have seen the summary. Summary means you have to write everything, but here you need to summarize your research process. So in conclusion, you need to summarize this. Make recommendations for future work. You need to show that this gap is still left. You can work on this topic. Means that will be the continue part of your research work. Means you can show that recommendation of your future work or show contribution of new knowledge. Also, you can show with your research that there is a new knowledge that you have contributed to this specific field. Suppose if you have developed any kind of vaccine or something novel formulation for that particular vaccine, so you can show like I have developed this formulation, so that will be used for future, you can say, therapeutic treatment for tuberculosis disease. So in this way you can write your contribution to the scientific community. This is all about conclusion. Now the last is discussion. Now what do you mean by discussion? Means you have to discuss everything. What discussion? You have to summarize a brief recap of key result. Again, you have to write about the key result. That should be a summary part of it. Interpretation, you have to write what did you interpret from your result. Means what do your results means. You have to write the summary for that. You have to write the implications, means why do results matter. Means you have to write whatever you have found, why your results matter to the scientific community. So you have to write the importance of your research work. That is what called as implication, how it will imply to the future research process. Limitation, if there was any kind of limitation, why can't these results tell us. तो अभी तक जो भी limitation था, and if any kind of limitation is there with your research work, so you have to mention that also. And ultimately you have to mention the future avenues, that is you have to give the recommendation, means recommendation, that is avenues for further studies or analysis. So ultimately you have to mention the summary, you have to mention what did you find from your data, how did you contribute to the scientific community, means why do your results really matter, limitation, and any kind of recommendation you wanted to give to the youth. So this is all about the discussion, and here we have seen the outline for your dissertation, that is MSc dissertation, or if you're about to continue your PhD, so that time you should write your thesis title. So this is mainly for master's student, those who are in the masters and now about to pursue their, you can say, dissertation or major training. So that time they can take a help from this and they can design or write their thesis in this way. So this is all about the topic. So I'm sure this topic was really beneficial for all of you, and if you like the topic, do hit like the video, share to all your friends, and also subscribe to our channel, that is Biotecnika. Meet you back again in the next video. Till then, bye bye, take care, keep learning.